So, call me to order. And then. Should I call names or just
You can call names.
Lori?
Here. Is someone taking?
I can take those.
You can do that.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I know.
You should
Carol
delegate.
does,
You
but
should delegate.
Okay.
somebody
Here,
will
would
just.
you take notes? Do you have paper and everything?
I do. I'm not the greatest note taker, but I will do my best.
Okay. And Laura here, Teresa here, Corbin,
I'm here.
Emily. Cinna.
Yep.
Okay,
We still have a quorum, right? Yeah.
there's a. So, the minutes from last month. If everyone approved them,
I glanced over them and I would move to approve them.
no visitors, but does anyone else have a comment? No comments? Okay, so our business, if I could get things started and we'll go through our business. Here's a card for Emily and Joe, just to, who just left, the green space. So here's markers, if you would, pass those around and sign them in a way. And Liz, we can write what you want on the card if you want.
Oh, thank you.
Other than your name,
Unfortunately, we're not.
we can write a message as well.
We'll send them that way first.
So, the first order of business, I do have one other thing. We have some inspirational quotes for us. So I'll read one, maybe Teresa, if you read one, and for reading. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. That's from William James, who's considered the father of psychology, I think.
Like the John York quote. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks.
Okay, in the leaf. Okay, this is Gaylord Nelson, founder of Birthday. The ultimate test of man's conscience may be his willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations, whose words of thanks will not be heard. I think we're good.
So,
Oh, no, I think we have.
Wendell Berry, I was writing, so it's possible.
That's
No,
kind of right.
That's it. I should have taken that one. It's way shorter.
It is. The earth is what we all have in common.
Who said that?
Wendell Berry.
He's a poet from Kentucky, fifth generation farmer.
Good stuff.
I saw him speak when I was in college. It was, I had no idea what I was seeing at the time. It was for class.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So some words of inspiration to set the tone and remind us, even though it's hard to get here and hard to get Zoom operating, that what we're doing is for the green space for nature. Okay, so now our business, first order is Trees of Distinction Subcommittee update.
Okay, well, Yvonne and Carrie and I got together last month and we went over the candidates and we kind of chose one, or actually it's two, but they're sister brother trees. We agreed this set of Dawn Redwoods, we would like to put forward to the commission to recommend those. I also had Joe Olkey, he came and measured the I guess it's called the DBH, it's diameter, breast height, and then eyeballed did some visual calculations and sent me a summary of that. And he said the trees look great. It is from a man named Ralph Hofston. And he planted these trees 45 years ago. And they are not native, but they are in the cypress family. They're not invasive and they're not aggressive. And they're actually, well, from Joe's knowledge says they're actually very, they are a rare species for the area and our part of the country. Let's see, and they're very healthy and really, they're really majestic looking trees. I took, I have pictures. I'm so bummed because I have them saved on here. But they're on my Google Drive and I am not like, I don't have internet, so I don't usually I'm not really very handy with getting on this computer. But I do have pictures on my phone that I took. I have them in an album. Which I can pass around. There's like 8 pictures. But anyway, they're located close to Kirkham Avenue in the backyard. The house faces Kirkham, but you can see them really well from Brainerd, which is a street that goes behind this house. They're about 105 feet tall. And then I'll also, I guess, I don't think I really need, I can pass around Joe's letter and also there is some information. It's Metasequoia glyptostroboides is the scientific name.
Very good.
Thank you. They're really nice trees and this man nominated them himself and he's so he has just a wonderful yard of trees that so his neighbor was a master gardener back when he planted these trees and lived right next door to him. And so that's where his neighbor recommended he plant these trees, and he's also grown them from like several others. There are younger trees too from the same tree in his yard that he's been growing. I'll pass this around. This tree is also a plant of merit at the Missouri Botanical Gardens. So Yvonne, what else do I need?
There's nothing else. I ordered a plaque that has a barcode, so we'll give it to him.
Okay.
And he can put it somewhere when people go by, they can see it, and the barcode then that takes them to the website of the Trees of Distinction.
Okay.
We'll present it, right?
Yes.
Oh, those look great to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see them from all over the area because it's a low line. I can take up a lot of time.
I mean, I probably driven by them a million times and now I will make sure to look.
What is the cross street with Kirkham?
Well, it's
Hull,
Hull, yes. Hull is the cross street and then Brainerd runs parallel to Kirkham behind it.
so basically across from Larson Park on the north side.
I'll have to pay attention.
Yeah. Near the corner of Hull.
So your subcommittee work is complete.
Yeah, I've made my recommendation to the commission that we elect or choose this tree for our 2025 tree of distinction. I will write up something for Arbor Day. So
invite him.
and invite him, yes, I'll be in touch with him and
Okay.
yeah.
That's what does he get a plaque or?
He gets a plaque and then Carrie mentioned maybe a book.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do both. Or possibly, yeah, book would be, yeah, I think she said either that or gift card to one of the groceries in town, yeah. Whichever one, is determined, maybe, or can be done, okay.
So,
We might have mentioned this at the last meeting, but I'm curious, is there a map on the website where we can see all of the trees of distinction?
there's a list.
Okay,
I don't know if it-
Yeah, I don't think there's a map, but there's a detailed list.
So do I need to do anything further with this?
No, I'll coordinate with Yvonne and Emily or whoever, and we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate your excitement for the tree.
Thanks.
And our next order of business is the nominee for the tree steward. And last, I think this was mentioned, it could have been mentioned just between Carrie and I, but to nominate either Joe or Emily, who just left the Green Space Commission. And my thought was Emily, and to include her husband Glenn, who had previously been on Green Space, so it would be to both of them. And the reason Emily left Green Space is because of Glenn's health. So not that they're more deserving than Joe, but that I don't know Glenn, but it could be he won't be here next year. So then this could be a way to honor them.
He was a huge force when he was on the commission.
Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
When I started on Green Space, had been on for quite a few years, and every honeysuckle sweep, every tree planting, he was out there. He was every bit engaged at the time, but he had been on the commission forever, so I think he didn't really want to get off the commission, but he'd been on it forever, give somebody else a spot. So, and I agree, Joe's kind of fresh off of Green Space, so. Glenn is definitely deserving of it.
So it sounds like you think they are deserving.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Emily wasn't on the commission a long time, but Glenn was on for quite a while. I think the combination of both, and she'd probably still be on too. She
That's
was
my
able to,
impression.
so, yeah, and maybe Joe down the road, so.
Yeah.
But this is your commission, so.
Anyone else want to speak to it?
I know their whole family, and they're very committed to plants and green spaces, so I would fully support that. Although maybe Joe next year.
Yes.
Liz, did you want to speak to it?
No, I fully support that.
Okay. So I'll speak to Carrie about next steps to bring that to fruition. Our next order of business is the Eco Ed update. Let's see. I will pass this around. I only made one copy. So here are the dates. March 5th is the first date, and the Sustainability Commission has planned works at work. And then the next date is April 2nd, which we've been talking about for Arbor Day.
Oh, actually, it's May 6th. So that did not get updated.
Okay.
So May 6th, I think should coincide with another Eco Day.
May 6th is Arbor Day.
Yeah, the mayor committed, so.
Oh, we had tentative for the 7th, it looks like, I guess we need to move that to the 6th.
So just to refresh, the Sustainability Commission organizes 3 and our commission organizes 3 eco eds. And one that Carrie and I have talked about, and she knew someone, and So she has arranged, on here it says May 7th,
Yes,
so I hope that's a typo.
Oh, that's what.
no, it is May 7th.
But the 6th is Arbor Day.
Did I say the 6th?
Yeah.
Okay.
6th.
Hold on, it's probably a typo.
The 6th is a Tuesday.
Yes, that makes sense.
So it's Wednesday, the 7th of May.
Oh, we have city council meeting on the 6th too, so maybe it's Wednesday the 7th.
Let's see.
Might be done by 6th.
We could go into the next thing, cause it takes a while to get stuff on this, a long time.
So keep going.
Yeah.
So Carrie has arranged for Billy Haig from Forest Relief to come that day, hopefully the 7th, because that's the day she has on here, to speak about tree care, young tree care, setting the foundation for success. And he was at those of us who participated in the Green Our City Initiative, getting trees in our right of way. He was there at the meeting in Larson Park. Weren't you there?
Yeah.
And he demonstrated planting a tree and struck me as very knowledgeable about trees. So that one is set up and
What date did you say?
May 7th,
it is the 7th.
yes, sorry about that.
Wednesday, May 7th,
Thank you.
Arbor Day and Young Tree Care. And that's gonna be at Ivory Crockett Park Pavilion. Into tree planting, is
There
that?
will be, but it'll just be about 20 trees, so that might sound like a lot, but that's.
So 5:30 at Ivory Crockett.
How do you spell Billy's last name, Billy Haig?
H-A-H.
H-A-H-E. So, one thing that Carrie and I were talking about, and she has reached out to someone she knows, and that person is in process. And we're looking perhaps, in September, is the Brentwood Park, the new park on Kirkham. And, to understand their water management and native plants and the infrastructure of the park. So that's in process. Carrie's contact knows the other key players in that, and she was gonna reach out to them to get additional speaker. So it's not 100% set, but it's well on the way. And the other thing I had suggested, which is even less firm than that, was if you saw in the Webster Kirkwood Times like a month ago, the Sustainability Commission, maybe 2 months ago, they went on a field trip to the recycling center, and someone from the Webster Kirkwood Times went and was front page and described what happens to our recycling. And I suggested maybe we could do the same for the yard waste, where it goes. So that's kind of a little bit in process.
This is John Hickey, is that right? From Sustainability coordinated that, so he would be a good contact. If you need a contact for that.
Does that fill all of our slots?
If that works out, if the Brentwood Park gels, and if the yard waste recycling gels, that will be our 3 spots.
Okay.
So we're well on the way.
Okay, if you need a backup, Brian Waldrop from Stream Team volunteered to speak as well. So if we need an alternative option, I did tell Carrie about that and she said she was going to bring it up to you. So just keep me informed, but I can connect you if we need another possibility.
Okay, and then did she let you know on April 2nd, she has Scott Woodbury?
April 2nd,
She has Scott Woodbury. Nope, speaking, I think that just came up today. So I guess
about native.
honestly,
That's what his articles I see.
oh yeah.
Where is that one, Jamie?
Probably the library. Cause he would be speaking, but he might wanna be outside.
Well, and I know something that's in the works is doing a walking tour over at the Brentwood. All that,
Oh, maybe it would be part of that one.
it maybe, I'm not sure what time of year that was sort of talked about, Stacy. So just throwing that out there, I'd firm up with Carrie though.
Okay.
Later.
So we wanna look at this, that is in process and firming up. Any questions or comments about EcoWed?
Haven't looked at that, but did you say a time frame for the recycling idea?
It's on that paper, maybe on the backside. So hopefully, by this time next month, it will be all solid. Looks like we just lost Liz.
Is it possible to get a copy of this once it's sort of more solidified or something? I just want to put things on my calendar.
Once it's solidified, they seem like they make posters and post it, and it's in the newspaper.
Yeah.
But if you want that, I could send it to you.
Okay, I'll take it. Like get out in front of the general public. Feel like I know some inside information.
Okay. So our next order of business is the grant subcommittee update, which is me. So the only thing that's changed since I shared this in October was that, well, a big thing, Rory has joined the commission and has tremendous grant experience, and Rory and I met and discussed a little bit about this project. And so now we have two kind of avenues to address. And one was in my email at the end of the week to get clarity about the outcomes we want. What do we want the volunteer coordinator to do?
I interject a little bit about our conversation, so I read the report, it's, very thorough and very good about, as a sort of study on what's out there, who might fund these kinds of things, what they've funded in the past, that sort of thing, so it's good groundwork, but my question to Judy was, one comment was, I think that the potential for funders shrinks considerably if it's presented as, we want this position. Because I think they're going to say that sounds like an operating position within the city, why would we fund it? And if we did, in the context of this, how would you keep it up going forward, or are we just funding this part of your budget forever? Is that what you're asking? So what I had said is, why, if we have this person, what would they do? And can it be bundled in with the sort of overarching project or point? Because usually this, asking for a position, it's going to be for the term of the grant, and depending on who's giving it, I don't know what that would be. So the context is as important as they ask, what will this person do? And we would need to sort of form the story of, I just gave some examples, like, you know, if we wanna do Ivory Crockett and the difference between North and South Webster and what they have and what other parts have that they don't. You know, and the, you know, history of that area and the AME churches and things like that. That would be something that could sell to folks that aren't even on that list, like the Stewart family or something, you know. And they would do a lot of that, and the church aspect of it would be part of it. So I didn't know, and this was really the initial conversation. I got a sense of what has been done so far, but I wasn't sure why we were asking for it. Does that make sense?
I can share a little bit of context too that we talked about before, we're gonna be both on the committee. There's a lot of sensitivity about grants and grant applications from the city perspective. We just wanna make sure that we're not going rogue, basically. Which I know that everybody already knows, but just to say, so once we kind of figure out what we wanna do, we would wanna make sure that Yvonne and I could take that back to city leadership and make sure that we've got buy-in for it as well. And that it fits in with other grants that the city might be asking for. The city has resources to help with the grant writing and the grant submission process, of course, it's submitted with the city as the, you know, as the recipient. So as we're going through like the why and all of that, also keep in mind that like when we do figure out what we wanna do, or when you figure out what you wanna do, like we will wanna take that up through on the staff side. Because as Rory and I both know very well, like this, and anybody who's worked on grants, that it takes a lot of time. We wanna make sure that we're just being cautious with staff resources and we have that lead time and all of that, so.
You know, I would suspect that, you know, if we brought in a volunteer coordinator, it would go just beyond this committee with what they could do. I'm so glad to hear that they have resources and they have accounts to submit these sorts of things. So that's great. And, you know, getting the city's perspective on what they would like to see happen, I think would be good. You know, we can propose, but I would love to have conversations myself, and this is something I was thinking about driving over, because we're gonna be talking about budget with the folks who do that, finance staff. What do you want? When do you want it? I know that we'll talk about some of those details, but when it comes to grants, you know, it is work on many people's parts that are not in this room, so how would it affect them and who are they and what are their preferences, et cetera. But maybe you can tell me, is there an appetite? And I assume that, you know, we'll talk about our budget, we'll set our budget at some point for the year. This would be considered above budget, I suspect, you know.
Yeah, I would think so. I would consider this like maybe one of the plans that you have to pursue for like depending on where you wanna put it for the next year, following years, kind of in the projection, as opposed to adding the dollars to your budget at this point in time, since we don't know how large it would be or, you know, anything like that, so.
So we're able to propose a project scope with,
Yeah, there's a, did you print it? I didn't print it out. There's a whole format for how we request our fiscal year 26 budget.
Yeah.
And it includes like, what would you like to do in the future? What are you working on this year? What are kind of your long-term plans? Yeah, that's last year's,
we have an angel who wants to step in and say, hey, I'm gonna green the heck out of Webster Groves and you're gonna have all the resources that you want. We'll find a way that even if we submit our budget and we get approval for the 90,000, you know, they say, hey, we're going to give you $500,000 more.
Yeah, and also, I mean, grants have such a long lead time that by the time we would figure out what we're submitting for and get it in, we would probably be talking about fiscal year 27 anyway, as opposed to 26 by the time the project starts.
Okay, yeah. Talk to a finance person on that too, see how much of a stickler they're gonna be. But we would need to do this as a recommendation to you and you would take it.
It would go through staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about the fundamental questions. I'm just trying-
No, you're fine, I mean, it would go through staff and I think we would talk, because there are other grants happening at the city now, like we've got Safe Streets for All and some other big initiatives, and so, and then we have staff for those initiatives, so just like how it all fits in, but I do agree, like, I feel like green space, needs a little bit more clarity on what the ask is, what we're looking for to be funded. Is it a position, is it a program?
I would appreciate clarity, since I just I just joined a year ago and was, kind of like, what committee do you wanna be on? I said, well, I'll get your grants, so I don't even know the history of it. So if anyone could speak to that, that would be
The
appreciated.
history of looking for grants, I mean,
This-
like how that subcommittee kind
a
of
volunteer
started.
position.
Well, I know the history of greenkeepers.
Yeah,
So we created a volunteer corps called Greenkeepers. And Deer Creek Watershed Alliance used to host the site, so I would create a blog that invites people and the people would sign up through that site. Well, we moved it to the city's civic rec program and so people can sign up for events on that website. It's a little bit more complicated to sign up for those than it was on the Deer Creek Watershed. And so we have about 200 people on that list of volunteers. And, in the heyday, we had 30-something volunteer events a year. And it's great if we could do that, but we have so much ground to cover in the parks that it takes a lot of our time to set up volunteer events, so it'd be nice if we had someone volunteer who set up the events. That were sort of outlined by what the parks needed help with.
So would it be helpful if I wrote a paragraph and sent it to Rory, who's got experience and he could tweak it, and then next month we could discuss it more? I could send it out in advance of what we're looking for, what are the outcomes, what is the purpose?
Yeah,
Does
and
that seem
maybe
like a good
there's,
next
So this has been absolutely beneficial, just hearing the words that you just
yeah,
mentioned,
and
because there's a
perhaps
history.
there's, if a grant doesn't wanna fund personnel because they feel like it's, gonna be ongoing for the city,
Hmm.
that maybe there's a volunteer out there who has time to actually coordinate these volunteers who doesn't wanna be compensated, but maybe they would like some other kind of support that a grant could give them, like supplies. Or just sort of, we have quite a bit set up as far as tools go. We have a whole volunteer trailer that has every tool you could want to use. But volunteers like snacks and, safety PPE, gloves and glasses tend to not stick around. So it could even be a small grant that funded something like that. If we could find a volunteer who wanted to be our volunteer coordinator and coordinated 2 activities a month or 1 activity a month.
And it's up to the funder, but I don't want to say that it's unequivocally an issue, it's just how it's presented, so if you have this particular events that have a point to them that you would like to see move forward, but we need a part-time staff member to do that, because I don't know if, a volunteer, love them, and hopefully we have a lot of them. Well, you had 200 under greenkeepers, so that's a good part of the story to include. But it's just, what is it that you're trying to do? What will this person be doing? And that becomes the focus rather than the fact that the person, is working for it. Is what are we gonna accomplish? What are the outcomes we're going to do? 2 events, they're going to focus on blah, blah, blah. And this person is an integral part of it that we'll need, that we don't have right now in order to make these outcomes happen.
the other thing that we have going on, which I know is later in the agenda, is the FY 26 plan, and you could put in your future plan, I mean, that's a place to present to council, this is what we want, this is what we need for our budget, but also this is what we've been doing and this is what we plan to do in the next year or so. You could have in there, like, here's our idea, we're looking to, look for opportunities where we could work with the city to submit, for X, Y, and Z. Can we get feedback from council and city management to see if we're on the right track with that? Because what'll happen after all the boards and commissions submit these, and this is only the second year we've done this, so it's very new, but all the boards and commissions will submit their budgets and their plans for the upcoming year. Council will be there, but then we'll also review everything and then send back something that says, looks great, or looks great, plus we would also like you to look at X, Y, Z. So there is a mechanism there where they could say, you know, here's some thoughts as you go down the grant road. That might be a way to get some input as well in these like early stages.
Could you speak to that process? Because when this came up in the fall, my impression was that Scott wasn't aware of it. Based on his feedback, he was zooming in and he said, well, he'd rather have, and he mentioned something else. And my impression was that you weren't aware of it either.
I mean, I was aware of the subcommittee. Is that is that what?
Yeah, I had the impression it was new information to you.
It wasn't
So
new
who are the
information.
stakeholders? Who has approved it?
No one has approved anything. So I think there was this idea that we could get grant funding to help with increased volunteer efforts in general. And so there was a subcommittee put
Because
together
this is
to
what
explore.
Karen told me to put on here, was formed in July, identified as a priority, in the annual work plan,
So then it would be on that other document that you have there.
but wasn't the work plan approved?
The work, well, let's see how it's phrased in the work plan. Oh, that's not right, so
I didn't print it all, I just printed the budget part.
I think that's all of it. I think this is the whole thing.
There was more pages I didn't print.
Here. Grant for Green Space Stewardship, working group will search for funding opportunities and grants for activities pertaining to management and stewardship of public green spaces. I think the council said that sounds like a fine thing to look for,
So you, when
because
this was brought up in the fall, you were aware it was happening?
I was aware that that was the first report back of what had been found.
I had the impression it was news to you and news to Scott, I think we both were, okay?
Right around that time, there had been other grant issues blow up at the board and commission level. And so it was heightened sensitivity around that, and I hadn't heard the report yet. I knew that we were searching for funding opportunities, but I wanted to make sure people knew like what the process was. We needed to make sure that staff were involved, staff resources or,
So was Scott aware or was it news to him?
I couldn't speak to that.
So who are the stakeholders who say, yeah, do that?
Well, city council approved this, and city leadership is on that too, so city manager and now deputy city managers.
So conceivably, that wasn't the first time you heard it.
Heard what, like this,
That
that we were gonna
looking-
search,
That
that,
we were looking for funds for our city volunteer.
this is what was approved.
Sorry, what is that?
This was last year's
Work plan?
work.
Yeah, those are two separate things. One is we're going to look for grants to support the Green Space Commission. And one separate thing is, one of those might be look for a volunteer coordinator. So they knew about that one, whether they knew about the other one, it's hard to say.
And the desire to search for things, I think it was still like, that's very young, like a very new idea there, right? It's not a lot of direction on it.
I don't know.
I mean, just
I don't think I just read it.
just reading it, there's not a lot of detail in what was approved in the work plan.
So there's a knowledge that this is an interest that we have and that we'll pursue it, but I think it's a work in progress as far as, you know, what we flesh it out and what we end up suggesting be approved, you know, that has a little bit more of a, who are our partners? With grants, I would say if we can, the city is not the lead. Somebody else is that has a better infrastructure for managing grants because it takes effort, you know, and yeah, it does. You can just be a sub, you know this.
I'm well aware.
Yes, somebody else can, you know, take the role of financial management of it and we just reap the, you know, the pieces that we want to see happen.
We have existing grants already with,
319.
yeah,
The reason I bring
It's
it
not
up
new.
is it felt to me like we weren't on the same page.
I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page and that it's fine to get ideas, but we can't move down the path of saying, we're gonna apply for this grant, get started on it now, without bringing in more staff time and making sure that division or, department heads and city managers say, yes, we are comfortable with this, because it has to be seen in the context of the whole city government and not just what Green Space is doing. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't go too far down the path. Like, looking for ideas is great.
What I heard from you was stop, you have overstepped your bounds.
Well, are you still hearing that from me?
Not this minute.
Okay.
But I don't, it's not my agenda. And I've worked on it, but I'm not gonna push it. And I got pushback from you and from Scott that was like, did they not know this was happening? And I found it very confusing.
So I think we knew that there was a subcommittee that was interested in looking for ideas, but that was the first report back on what some of those ideas might be. Hadn't seen any of that yet, nobody had, right, except for the people that had been on the subcommittee. So, yeah, it was the first time that we had seen that, and in the context of, we needed to make sure citywide that all our boards and commissions know to be cautious around grants and not to get too far down the road before we have kind of like the blessing that, yes, we can pursue that opportunity, and here's how that's gonna look.
So if we're able to internally bat some ideas around and come forward with, and flesh them out a little bit. But just as an example, we talked about Deer Creek, I know that they have a lot of things going on. I don't know if, we're trying to do things with them right now, if there's some portion of it that won't go forward unless we find external funding sources, those kinds of, or, we want a part-time volunteer coordinator or a full-time volunteer coordinator, or whatever, to help us with these specific events. And the reason we do these events is, just to give it a little bit more of an idea of what we're trying to accomplish beyond what you can accomplish already and what you're doing. You have a full job. So beyond that, what would you like to see happen? And, can we find a way to make that happen so it doesn't, bury everybody under more work and that sort of thing.
And since it was in the work plan, it's very appropriate to address it in the upcoming work plan too. So, like, this was in our work plan for this year, and this is what we did. We had a subcommittee, we came up with these ideas, and here's where we are at this point.
Yeah, I think that's good work. It's a work in progress, continuing until we get some more specificity around it. It's not a waste of time, that's for sure. I think the best thing that comes out of grants sometimes is a plan, whether or not the grant funds it. It's a prioritizing exercise where you say, this is really important to us, and if we can make it happen, let's go in this direction. And then hopefully we can make it happen by getting the money.
So it sounds like maybe a good next step would be if I took a preliminary write and then sent it to you. And you could kind of wish list it. Sure. And then could advance it.
Yeah, and anybody who has ideas, throw them in.
So if we have something on paper for next month, and I'll send it out in advance. Let everyone think about it in advance. Edit it or add to it.
So we'll all see it, then we can all give feedback, is that?
Okay. So information about the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance, it was printed on the back side of the agenda, and Yvonne sent this out. So there's an in-person and a virtual meeting in March that are available for people to apply. So do we have responsibility to help
The
disseminate
only
this?
reason that I sent it to Green Space is to just help get the word out, because the city a long time ago made an agreement with the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance to help promote their programs. So it's just, maybe at your eco-eds, you can put that as a slide that, here are some opportunities to have rain gardens, that are funded through the Deer Creek. So it's just sort of information to pass along.
I think I've seen Liz and Ginger promoting it online.
Yeah, on your
I'm sure.
Facebook pages and just, to promote the program because it all helps the watershed. It's a pretty good outcome.
I am a recipient of a grant from them 12 years ago.
Yeah, the same with the Audubon Society. We kind of have an agreement to help push the bringing nature program
So it's
as well.
more informal word of mouth.
Yeah.
I posted it on probably 5 or 6 pages when it first opened up.
Thank you,
But if
Liz.
anybody wants to reinvigorate those posts, you can like it or comment.
And then our final business is the budget. For
It's what?
the budget.
Oh, thank you.
So here is our budget from 2024. Which had Arbor Day celebration, $250. And we talked about maybe giving out saplings. Would that need to go up higher than $250 if we gave out saplings?
We can buy it from the tree fund, and the sapling, sometimes they just give them to us. So they're 75 cents a piece or something, so you get 50 of them, I mean, it's very, very inexpensive, so we can definitely order some.
Do you think 200? Well, that's this year though, so this
Yeah.
year would
It
be,
usually includes the sapling, so I'll take a look at it, see what the breakdown is. And if we need to add more, can $50 or something like that, but a lot of that stuff comes out of the tree fund.
so at this point, that will stay the same, plus other.
I'll double check it.
Okay. For this year, 2025, we have $400 for our Eco-Ed series, which includes refreshments and attendance prizes, which are generally, the ones I've been to have been books. Any thoughts about that?
I like it.
400 seems kind of generous.
Yeah.
Our next budget item is the Green Our City Initiative, which was our biggest ticket item at $4,475. And the question is, does Public Works want to continue the Green Our City initiative with Green Space or do something else? In talking with Carrie, we weren't 100% sure of the future of the Green Our City.
As I understand it, the Green Our City initiative was the Green Space Advisory Commission's attempt to fill a gap in a way. So because there was a deterioration of our urban canopy, a decline of the urban canopy due to removals being more than the new plantings. And so certainly we were looking at those numbers. I think we were all copied in one email. The dollars that we can get from the tree fund to support the new planting activities. Public Works is intending to do that more on our own. But the Green Our City if it needs to continue as a tradition that it started already, and let's continue this as a maybe a small sample of doing that, but Public Works routinely would like to get into. I mean, I'm still kind of new, but I had some of these discussions with some of our our superintendent about our workforce's availability to do that, and making this more into a program of our own. And so the one, he didn't have a concern about our workforce availability or anything. He just wanted to make sure that we would be covered for the new planting, the cost of new plantings. And so, and I understand that the tree fund would be available to cover that cost. A lot of that is still to be determined, but I think this is possible. Public Works is certainly available to and able to do more plantings, tree plantings, but we don't necessarily do this to end the Green Our City program. But if the Green Our City program was being done in lieu of that, then, maybe it can slow down or at some point call it quits. I'm not sure.
But would you be supportive of both?
Both too,
Of
yeah.
having Public Works do more planting throughout the year, but also keep the
So-
fall greener city?
Green Our City, yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Green Our City is a one-day event. And so, but our work will be spread over a season to be doing that. So certainly we can do both.
And I don't think that email from Scott went to everybody, I think it went to staff and me. So I'm happy to share that with you because I know you and Carrie had some questions from before. And this might help with some of the context you can figure out what you wanna do with Green Our City this coming fall. So one of the questions was, how many trees has Public Works planted and cut down from fall of 2019 to now? And I can forward this to you too, so you guys have it. And this is from Scott Davis. So Public Works does not have a solid tracking system for this data, these are his words. The data available and provided are for new plantings for the last 3 years. So I don't have how many were cut down, but how many were added. They planted 40 in 22, 40 in 23, and 25 and 24. It's from Public Works. Is Public Works planning on planting trees next fall? If yes, would they like green space to help facilitate any educational outreach with the community to support this effort? And Scott is kind of deferring to Sinan to see how he would like to do it as Director of Public Works, because there has been a lot of discussion over time as leadership has changed in Public Works. Scott's saying from his perspective, I think the city should use green space to support, provide support for the program, but making sure, which we all want, right, that it's all defined so everybody knows the roles of the different places. And he's saying, I would suggest that green space help with the initial outreach, the education and training, the day of planting, follow-ups with the homeowners through establishment days. Those are all things that are consistent with how Green Our City has been done, at least in the couple of years that I've seen it be done. And then the Public Works arborist would handle site evaluation, determination of the number of new plantings, species selection, ordering of materials, locates, logistics for the day of planting, update the inventory list, and annual inspections and corrective pruning as needed. And he has additionally, arborists may need to water through establishment any trees planted in the right of way not associated with a homeowner to maintain, because the homeowners do agree to maintain it for the first 2 years of the tree's life. So if, I don't know if that is in line with what you were kind of thinking as well.
Yeah, Green Our Cities, certainly the way that the program worked with the residents was great. What we, up to the planting of the tree, everything is, we can do everything, but really the maintenance, the first 2 years, especially the first 6 months, we can get agreement. I mean, at least homeowners' contribution there.
They commit for 2 years.
We don't have like gators, I don't know, watering capability to, address different locations around the city. I mean, we can come up with that.
They get a bucket They get a bucket and they get instructions on how many buckets they need to pour on it,
That
how
would be
often.
great, yeah.
Yeah, there's so that instruction and the buckets and like a magnet and a tree tag is all provided, already has been done,
Yeah.
So the public works should not need to worry about watering those trees for the first 2 years, and I think we've only lost one.
One from the last year's planting.
Last couple of years,
Yeah.
so just not bad odds for the number.
That's very good.
That's a great thing.
So continue green.
Yes.
That's an award-winning program, right?
Yeah.
Definitely want to keep that one going.
Oh, it won an award.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a
international
national
award.
and international.
So international award.
Other in the cap.
Okay. So next budget item is the Community Days Parade. And there's $400 for t-shirts and float supplies. And the decision this past July was to not be in the parade.
Carrie and I did it 2 years ago. We had fun. Not last year.
So it's in our budget for this year, so
Do we want to?
pencil in your calendar for the July 4th parade.
Well, I mean, the July 4th, just the beginning of FY 26, so technically that'll be in the new budget, but it is a good time to think about, do you wanna do it or not?
So this is last year's budget, but we
Yeah.
didn't do it.
We want to put that in as an item for discussion for the next meeting and decide if we're gonna go ahead or.
So
do we need to-
discuss.
Good idea.
Yeah, or do we
And
need
the
to? budget
timing on
that
this
now?
budget thing, it's due back on March 15th, so you will have
Okay.
one more meeting before.
Cool.
So we'll discuss in March.
And if you wanna have a subcommittee outside, you certainly can do that as long as you're under a quorum, right?
And two more budget items. And Carrie and I discussed if these could be combined. One is educational outreach. There's $1,200 for this year, and it's best management practices video development. That hasn't happened yet. But could happen and get something on the the city's website. And then the last one is the Native Plant Task Force, $3,200 for plants, educational, marketing pieces, interpretive signage, for parks and public green spaces. So I could see educational outreach being part of the native plant. And I think during a video might be nice to highlight where native plants are and how to care for them.
Trying to remember, were they gonna use students from Webster to help with that?
We discussed
Do you
it,
remember
but
that?
we didn't advance it, so it was just kind of an idea that got
Webster
floated, Webster
University.
University.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Because they probably have assignments they need to do.
Yeah, they have a number of geography
That's true,
classes
yeah.
and things like that.
Does anybody have feelings about combining or keeping those separate?
Do we have an educational outreach that we wanna do that is not involved with native plants?
Tree management, at least for the plantings, some of which are native, but not all of them. So there's a strong overlap, but there's not a total overlap.
Is there an advantage for combining them? Is there
I don't know any particular advantage.
the same feedback then if it was combined, it would be implying that the video was going to be about native plants, and if we don't have to, then don't.
So keep them separate.
Yeah, as long as it's something that we plan to do.
Yeah, did we use any of the 3,200 from the native plant task force? Really? Yeah, so we didn't really have, I guess, the bandwidth, to move forward with that. This right here.
Not that I'm aware of.
We have two signs that need to be replaced. One is the rain garden Larson
Yeah.
and the Prairie sign at Lockwood Park, so
Yeah.
if signage is part of your. And then something else that we talked about, and I talked to Scott about, is some cities are putting signs near where you would cross over a creek, so you could say, you know, bring an awareness of this is actually a creek that you're driving over.
A lot of
So-
people would love to have one of those.
Label.
Yeah, I had a signage related idea some months ago, and it slipped out of my mind until just now. Watershed management in the Memphis area has been winning awards for programs that they're doing for the Wolf River watershed, in which public signage on major streets has been put up saying you are entering the watershed,
That's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
which they believe, they think they have some evidence has reduced pollution and trash
Yeah.
going into the creeks.
Gives people a sense of place.
Right.
Surrounding.
And if we could just start considering doing that for Grammar Creek and Deer Creek and what's the third one?
Shady.
And Shady Creek, I'm fine, yeah, the one I lived by for 20 years. Yeah, that one. Maybe as a signage thing, I don't know what kind of pricing that would be, but if we wanted to
Well,
start
I think
thinking.
come up with some samples and then that would have to go through Public Works
Sure, yeah,
for approval.
do you think Public Works would be interested?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And the creek crossings, as you mentioned, in Ladue, that's city of Ladue, Black Creek.
Yeah.
It's-
Make it really.
Yeah.
What elevate.
Yeah, so it's not a drainage issue.
Mhm.
It is a creek.
Memphis.
Yeah, I lived for 3 years in Memphis and got into some watershed activism while I was there.
And some of the signs, I think Carrie was sort of interested in, so there's some areas that we're kind of naturalizing. So even just informational signs, and then we're gonna start doing a lot of turf conversions around town. So we don't have to mow these areas anymore, so I think even just more sturdy signs rather than a piece of paper that's laminated. Something as simple as that, all the way to a new prairie sign at Lockwood Park, informational sign, and then the Larson Rain Garden.
So if we move on that this spring, it's possible we would use that piece of the budget this year.
Yeah, it's a need right now. So I can send everybody pictures of what it looks like, and then I wanna come up with, so the prairie sign is sort of dated because it talks about the prairie as we were first establishing it, so this is sort of a more mature prairie. And we can talk about the prairie burns, that sort of thing. And so it needs to be different wording than what was on there, so.
That would be great, you know, what's in the middle of Larson Park, for example, I think that there were some temporary signs that just get knocked over. You know, it'd be nice to have it be a little more substantial, so people, when I walk with them and they say, what the hell's going on here? Mow that. There's a point to it, and so I'll go read that sign that's in the mud over there.
Yes.
Would we be justified asking for a slightly larger sign budget if we're gonna try to fund a bunch of these, like, would that be crazy?
So we have 3,200 for this year.
Yeah.
And we could ask for the same or more for next year.
I don't know how much they cost, so.
I think it depends on the
Yeah,
sign,
it
like metals.
varies greatly, like an ordinance sign for the parks is $10,000.
Oh,
But these signs are gonna be more of a, I don't know what you call it. Certain kind of plywood, but it's plywood grid and then print. So it could be 1,000. It just depends.
Is it possible to do a little bit of detective work before our next meeting, since we don't?
Yeah, I can get some pricing. I started on it already, but there were way too many questions.
Thank you.
Does last year's budget then roll over to this year? Okay, so you didn't use it.
And your fiscal year is January 30th, and
Okay, so it's.
June,
that's
sorry, June
better.
30th.
So we could potentially get some
Use
signs
it.
out before
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think depending on what those signs look like that you were talking about, maybe we get some pricing on that. And then that would be your budget for next year if you were able to pull out these signs that we talked about this year.
I keep asking how the sausage is made kind of questions, but I'll learn it. So we have that in the budget, And the actual implementation of it would be through your departments. Is our budget within your departmental budgets?
It's in my
Okay.
realm.
On here, it specifies general fund, public works. Mostly general fund.
Okay, so general
is
fund is in your budget. Public
We
works
all
is
have general fund, but when I do my budget, your green spaces budget comes into my budget.
Is it presented to the city with the same level of context that we have here? Or is it,
You guys actually presented.
You'll be presenting your budget directly,
okay,
and then like
to the
later in
council
the,
and staff?
yeah, later in the budget process, the departments will present their budgets. They won't include this budget. It's like,
Okay.
even though it's under amounts per, it's like a separate budget process.
Okay, thank you.
We also have a sign making machine, so we can do some of those, we get the metal backing, by that, and then we have a computer and a plotter so that we can enter some designs into it, and so it cuts the sheet for it, and so then we stick the sheet and the metal, and so then it becomes a sign. We can do certain things, we cannot do many nice designs and stuff like that, we do vanilla stuff in the highway world, and so, but again, can help.
I wonder if we could do like an adopt a watershed program, and that that whoever adopts has access to those volunteers. Where, it's not like you're stuck with, I adopted this and now I took all the trash out by myself, that you could actually engage those volunteers.
Through
Yeah,
corporate sponsors or something?
I think even individuals, somebody might wanna sponsor.
That's true.
If you broke it up into certain, could be adopt watershed, Deer Creek watershed at blah, blah, blah mile marker to blah, blah, blah mile marker or something like that.
We've never done something like that where it's like a corporate event. I know that a lot of companies that my friends are in have volunteer days
Oh,
where they
yeah,
go out and pick up
I've had-
trash or.
I had Scott Air Force Base at 60-something airmen came over and wiped out all the honeysuckle in one of the parks one year, so.
That's great.
And Boeing, I've had big groups, church groups, big church group that brought their own bus and tool from Kansas City 2 years in a row and did honeysuckle. So people are always welcome to call me and I'll set up an event for them, and I do that all the time. But it can be a lot, so.
Where that volunteer coordinator
Yeah.
comes in.
And that's really the only way we get all these areas that are not parks taken care of. Like all these restoration areas along creeks and streams that are really vital. And that's because my staff does not have time to go down very often and pull out honeysuckle.
Actually, it's great.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you're writing a grant right now.
yeah, yeah, so.
All right.
So back to the video, or do you know someone at
Um,
Webster University?
I suspect I know why it didn't happen. I think Carrie and I talked about me asking some of my students at Webster University. I teach at Webster University. But the last 6 months I've been out of commission, unable to do anything extra. So I think it just died there because I was not able to pursue it. I did speak to a couple students briefly, but didn't get any interest. That doesn't mean that it's a dead end. I would have to pursue them again. I have a new class, it's a sustainability class. They might really like that, and some of them have videography classes. One of them is in a journalism class and just interviewed me for that, so it may be that I can make use of my current students or my former students. But it's a maybe. I can try to reach out, there's no guarantee I'll get any hits. They're 19, they don't have a ton of free time, or they don't know if they're doing yet.
A couple of years ago, someone from NERICS contacted me about creating a video about honeysuckle removal.
Oh, great.
And they did excellent job. And it's on the city's website. It links to it and it shows these 3 different techniques that we use for honeysuckle removal. And it was really well done, so that, I don't know if anybody has the contact at Aaron's, but they can do it too. It's a senior project. So, or they could work in conjunction.
I don't know anybody in there who's gonna have contacts at Webster High School, if they
Yeah.
have similar things, perhaps like.
Yeah. A
find
senior
somebody.
project or even a Eagle Scout project.
I'm willing to volunteer to reach out to these people, but like I said, there's no guarantee I'll get anything, so it might be that other people should also see if
Yeah,
they
my
find someone.
neighbor might teach
Okay.
at Webster U, he does like productions and stuff, so I can ask him if he's a student.
Please do.
Cause it's almost opportune time to
Yeah.
maybe do some video in the early spring when things are just starting and then mid-spring and take.
Sounds like we're saying we wanna keep money in the budget for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I would ask maybe if we wondered, because the ideas are all good but they're not all the same. So it's called Native Plant Task Force, but should it be
Well,
more
the
general?
educational outreach is the video.
Yes, and educational outreach is general enough, but, so, I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there as an idea, do we wanna back it up to be, so I was looking at native plant, and I think around that conversation, there was discussion of things that weren't native plants, but might have.
Right, some of the signage, right, yeah, more of a,
Do we wanna redefine?
yeah,
It would be even, I think, nice to have a video of the trees of distinction. And a video of the Green or City Initiative. This tree was planted, it's 2 years old, this one is 1 year old, this was just planted. So I think there are video options that would be valuable and worthwhile on the city's website. Draw attention to other things.
And would these students be, right, so we can discuss this with my neighbor, would these be students' volunteer hours or would it be compensated volunteer?
Had money to pay them, we talked about possibly offering them a
We
fee.
have $1,200 for this year, and we could ask for that amount or perhaps more for next year. And it could be like an extra credit project, or if they're doing an independent study, or project they just have to do.
Let's say if we could pay them even just a tiny bit, they could put that on their resume. I was paid by the city to do this, and that could be more
Paid
valuable
video.
than the money.
Yeah.
Small.
Okay,
That was
so
the original idea.
I'll print up the budget stuff, send it out, and we'll finalize next month and before it's due mid-March.
And some of the other categories, right, if when you send it out, you'll all see this as like ongoing long-term projects. What your plans for the next year, so if you find that there are things like you really wanna do, but you just don't have enough commission space to do it next year, you could always put on like, we wanna do this in the future, but it's just not a next year thing too. And then I don't know if the meeting date has been scheduled for when these get presented. But there will be a meeting with all the, with like a rep, like usually it's the chair, but a rep from each of the boards and commissions to present these. Last year we had it at Webster. I don't know if that was a scheduling thing or just a space preference, so date to be determined, location to be determined, but basically you're just presenting this document.
Okay, are we done with budget? Our next item is council liaison update.
I feel like I'm just talking all the meetings. Anything more, tonight is plan commission and the Lakota group is gonna be presenting. So, just some background on that, the city is undergoing a big comprehensive plan process, which hasn't been done as comprehensively since I think like the 70s. So it's kind of an exciting time, and that is a time to look at the whole city and figure out, you know, what do we wanna do for the next, 5, 10, 20, 40 years. It's a big deal. We hired Lakota Group to help us go through that. You might have seen postings for doing some surveys, or they had like an info session here with different posters where you could like put stickers on things you liked and notes on things you didn't. So they're coming back to Plan Commission and City Council. Plan Commission's today, City Council's tomorrow, with their kind of report of where it is right now. And so if you're interested in that, you can watch Plan Commission tonight or come or watch the recording tomorrow. Also, if you go to the agenda on the city's website, there's a hyperlink to their report. It's pretty long. I mean, it's 50 or 70 pages or something like that. It's pretty hefty, but it is, for lack of a better word, it's very comprehensive. And there are a lot of kind of interesting things in it and different approaches to that. So covers a whole range of different areas and planning and types of topics. So if you're interested in that, that's tonight at Plan Commission, which will, I expect, to be a longer and more detailed presentation than tomorrow night at City Council, where it will probably still be robust, but I think a little bit shorter probably, because it's pretty much the whole agenda tonight for plan. So that's pretty exciting. I think, I don't know, do you know if the Safe Streets for All survey is still up? Was it up? So
With a,
yeah,
Should be.
so if you haven't already done it, there's a Safe Streets for All survey. It's pretty easy to do. You can say like, you know, gosh, I really wish that I had a sidewalk here, or this crossing is difficult, or kind of what you notice with pedestrian and bike and really any kind of street safety. So I think we had 400 and something responses the last time I heard a number, so the more the merrier on that, but and I did it, it's not like, it's not a super long survey. Any questions?
Do you know what's going on with the lighting? There was some discussion of street lighting and dark sky stuff.
I do not know what's going on
Okay.
with lighting, yeah.
Cool.
I will read again with lighting in mind.
There was gonna be a separate meeting with some lighting folks. I was looped in with the email.
Oh, that I don't know about.
Okay, we might need to make that an item for next month's meeting then. I can try to find out.
I thought you meant in terms of the comprehensive plan.
I think, I didn't know it was directly connected, which is why I was asking.
I have not heard about a separate meeting about
Okay.
that to my memory. I know that we have talked, like we had a speaker come and talk about it, but I don't know who that is.
Follow up in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, I haven't been part of that.
Okay, I'll see if I can find
And
out.
that's good to think about too, as y'all are planning what you wanna do in the
Right.
future. You know, if you wanna pick up dark skies and what that looks like.
I think sustainability may be pursuing it, which is good,
Oh.
if they
Yeah,
are.
I mean, that does, it's so, there's so many things
Yeah.
that could go either to green space or sustainability, so.
But if they are, I'd like to support them, you know,
Yeah.
so.
In terms of implementation of projects for street lighting, Crossroads Business District.
Right.
We have a county project that is doing the road and some other lane reallocations and stuff like that. But the city would like to add street lighting to their project.
Okay.
And so within the next probably 2-3 months or up to, I don't know, 5 months or so, this will be in design. So it will be a good time to.
Now,
Yes.
we need to do it now.
Because, you know, you
Okay.
specify something into the project that is better than changing it later within the project. You know, that costs us more money than doing it.
I'll get on this right away then. I'll
Yeah,
make sure
it'd
we
be
have
great
this
to
information.
incorporate too, that we have that at Crossroads, and I don't think that Old Orchard is too far away, because they also have a streetscape project. Not as close as Crossroads, time wise, but in the pipeline.
Where's that gonna be located? Just so I write it down.
So that's Big Bend Boulevard, west of Allen.
And the KVC Children's Project, which passed Plan Commission and City Council, one of the questions that some people, including me, had about that was also lighting. It's a very large parking lot, and what is that gonna look like? And they did say that they would be doing downward facing lights,
Okay.
and that they would cut the lights. I'd have to go back to double check, but I'm pretty sure they said they would cut the lights to 50% after 10 PM.
That goes a long way. Okay.
So, you know, even things like that where I know sometimes there's pushback on public safety and we wanna make sure that things are well lit. There's still ways to keep things well lit and have it darker.
And for you guys that are new on the commission, we had a presentation from Jake Roniker last year or the year before, where he showed us that safety is not compromised by adjusting the lighting to protect wildlife. The human safety is not
Yeah.
compromised. He showed us studies and images supporting that. So that's where we have been coming from as a commission on that. Yeah.
Does anyone remember if it was downward facing lighting or wasn't it kind of like they had some sort of attachment that they were putting on streetlights that was, I almost thought of it as more uplighting, but I'm probably wrong.
The hat that protects the light basically, so it redirects it down, so it's not shooting up at the sky. Can you see me?
Okay. I kind of, I can hear you.
Like that. I got
Okay.
Jake's document on it, if you want me
Yeah,
to try
send
to
it to me. I'm just curious because I really would love to see us pursue that between
Yeah.
the two commissions.
Okay,
Cool.
Emily, did you say that there was timing for more input on the Lakota plan, or is it? kind of-
Yes, they're coming back to talk plan today, council tomorrow, and then we give kind of our feedback and our remarks. I think it's a pretty short turnaround. I think it's by the 10th, they would come back with an updated. Or we have to get them our remarks by the 10th, and then after that, they would come back with an updated. So, and there is public comment both, you know, tonight and tomorrow night at the meetings. You can always submit things straight to council too, via email. And they do have a journey to WG.com website that has like a way to see information and share information that way too. So it's ways to engage with people.
Ready? So our next meeting is March 3rd, a month from today.
we have an update from Yvonne too, or the
Almost got away.
Oh, I'll just piggyback with saying that at Lifer Park, we are actually doing something with the domes on the lights around the parking lot to make the light go down.
Perfect,
So
that's great.
it's that's in the works for us, and we're doing budget stuff, cleaning up parks and making everything ready for the early spring that we're gonna.
Oh, yeah.
I would also
Yeah,
like
one
to-
day only.
I'd like to compliment the cute little lights along the walkway on the edge of Blackburn there. They're low to the ground and point down. They're great for wildlife and they're just so adorable to walk by. I love them. Yeah.
Oh, I think Ginger was gonna ask about the playground at Blackburn. Is it open or still closed?
We ended up taking the fencing down, there's still some little bit of bubbling around some of the corners that they're gonna come and replace, but. I'm not on social media, but I heard that there was a billion questions about the fencing. We had opened up the park, but the main fencing was still up because we thought they were coming back and then we got snowed in, so. We don't know when they're coming back yet.
Just the surface, like some of the new surface is bubbling,
So,
but it's okay, you can use.
yes, you can use it, yeah. So good.
The last meeting, we had an email that came out to tell us to start thinking about committees to join or subcommittees.
Here is the survey from last April, and these were the options. But there's gonna be new ones with, if you want to work on them.
The girls, I can take the pics stuff here.
Are the signage,
This was the comment. It was this was that had like a native plant. I just thought that was gonna come in today.
There's the stormwater group, the grant group, the trees extinction group. Is there another one?
Eco-Ed lecture series, Green Our City Initiative, Leave the Lease Initiative, No Mow Initiative, trees of distinction.
Those are our initiatives, not our committees though.
So those are existing, and new ones are tree preservation ordinance review and recommendation, comprehensive plan process engagement and recommendations, native and invasive plant ordinance review and recommendation, grant funding, opportunity search for stewardship related activities, planting ordinance review and recommendation, urban forestry, best management practices recommendation.
Could you send this out?
Those would be good on the plan too. On the fiscal year plan, those would be good things, no, I mean like, the things you talk through are like different areas that the commission is either already focusing on or wants to in the future, so they would be good to kind of bullet point on that report. Whatever bucket they're on, like current and past or.
That was just the stuff you're doing already.
Yes.
Hey,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any dates on this? I know we touched on.
So we have the stormwater master plan update on February 18th. It's in a work session, so that room to me is a little small, but anyone is welcome, yeah. I know some of our actually property owners that have been suffering some flooding type of issues over the years, they are planning to come and join the session. So it's a work session update to council on the findings of the study and collecting council's thoughts about what we should focus on going forward. How we should, the next step to this is these projects that will be identified under the plan will get into our capital improvement plan. So we need to propose those from there and get them into the implementation. So, and I had a question last meeting about the MSD project schedule. MSD project that is building along the Shady Grove reach. So the phase one is in construction right now, that's in Brentwood. And so you may have seen the pipes stacked up there, and that makes sense kind of because they're starting from downstream and going upstream. And so our portion within this city of Webster Groves is slated for construction in 2026. And so right now they're still working on some easement acquisition, and we actually need to sign off on some easements because that's the entrance to our service center. They're gonna take up some space to drill under the creek and all that. So that project will be coming up for construction in 2026. So,
Yeah, next time you come, do up in office.
thank you.
Thank you.